Hello, everyone. Thanks for checking out this special episode of Really Dicey. This is Manny. I'm here with Craig of Nerdburger Games, and today we're going to talk about Cosmic Corsairs, space, cosmic powers, pirates. So this is a game that you're currently working on as a Kickstarter to put out to give to fans of Nerdburger Games or fans of role-playing games that enjoy space and piracy and the combination of the two in some way. If I may ask, well, I guess first we should ask, what is this idea exactly? Am I getting the idea of this correctly?
In essence, sort of yes. Cosmic Corsairs is a game about people living on the fringes in this sci-fi world. It's all set in one solar system, 10 planets, and there's a lot of people who are kind of living out in space on the fringes on old space stations or moon bases or on asteroids. Um, and kind of seeking freedom out there because the bulk of the solar system that is called Aether space is controlled by a corrupt kind of dark regime, a government called the Triarchy, and they kind of have most of 10 worlds under their boot. So Cosmic Corsairs are kind of in the game you're playing. Um, the cute version is magical space pirates fighting oppression, but it's not so much pirates in the idea of like running around trying to kind of build up treasure and be a space pirate. Although you can certainly play it that way. It's um, it's people who are kind of on the outside striking back and fighting back against the triarchy and trying to weaken them, trying to help other people who are in trouble and who are being oppressed and pushed around by the triarchy. So it's a little bit of a kind of resistance versus the dark empire. I try not to use the word empire because that harkens to a very particular science fiction IP. The triarchy that kind of runs everything, and they're no good. They need to be overthrown very badly. So that's what you're doing in the game is fighting back against them.
Excellent. This gives me Guardians of the Galaxy meets Flash Gordon vibes. Um, what were some of your inspirations behind this project? Why did you create this project?
Um, well, it creating this kind of came out of having wrapped up Capers, the Capers game line, which started up back in 2018. I finished up the last supplement for that. And that was like two full game books plus multiple supplements that kind of was a game line that told this whole story about these superpowered gangsters across history. And I started thinking about like what's going to be the next thing, the big, like a big game line. I want to kind of approach this like come into it planning for it to be a game line, and be it multiple products. And so I bounced around a whole bunch of ideas and ultimately kind of settled into science fiction, and conceived of the idea of this solar system with the triarchy kind of dominating it and all the different types of stories that you can set in that backdrop. And there'll be other things coming down the road, but the first one, Cosmic Corsairs, seemed like kind of this spaceship battles with cosmic powers, sort of space pirates on the fringe. Seemed like a very exciting way to start it all off. Like make it really like here you go. You're going to have your in the game you're playing a cosmic who is a person who is able to draw upon the cosmic energy of various celestial bodies. So you're drawing power from the star and from at the center of the galaxy or the center of the solar system, and planets and moons and asteroids and so forth. And you are channeling those powers to toward overcoming the triarchy. And so it it does definitely have some influence coming from Guardians of the Galaxy. Um, and Flash Gordon to an extent. I mean, there is Ming the Merciless and like the evil empire there. It doesn't visually look like that. It's not like kind of Flash Gordon style retro future sci-fi. It's more like sailing ships in space, because aether space is filled with an atmosphere. So the starships are more akin to sailing ships with a deck. Like you can be outside the ship on the deck of the ship. Although they don't look specifically like sailing ships of Earth, they're more science fiction-y and stylized, which you can see in that illustration right there. There's like the characters there are standing on a deck. There's another starship in the path in the background. Gives you a sense of what that particular design looks like. And certainly there are elements of Star Wars that you kind of can't do space opera without kind of having a little bit of Star Wars peppered in there.
You mentioned you could be you're a being of cosmic power. When you say cosmic power, like when I think that, I think like obviously Marvel's influence, was from Silver Surfer, Quasar, Nova, things like that. Is there like a variance? When you say cosmic power, do you mean like a certain type of power everyone has, or is it that or is there like a different powers per se?
There's a whole bunch of different powers in the game. When you play this cosmic and you have um, an affinity. There are 6 different affinities, and they for each affinity draws a certain amount of their power. They're kind of from a particular celestial object. Like if you're a bolt, then you draw. Your affinity is comets, and so you have some special abilities that you can choose from that are kind of inspired by things that comets do. And then there's solars who are attuned to the sun, and fragments that are attuned to planetoids like asteroids and things like that. And there's 6 of them in total. So your powers are spread across channelings that you use to channel that power. And there are, the affinity ones that are specific to only certain, like if you play a bolt, only bolts get access to certain powers. And then there's a bunch of general channelings as well that kind of round things out that anybody can take. But within the affinity as well, your most powerful channelings are called novas, and they're like big powers that you have to kind of build up toward being able to use. You're going to be limited in how often you can use them, and that's all tied into the game mechanics. Whereas the regular channelings are more likely to be able to be used more often. Some of them you can use as much as you want. Some of them that are a touch more powerful, you might have to spend a resource, like spend a point. In the game, it's called spirit. Spend a spirit to use so that you are somewhat limited. But as long as you keep gaining spirit, you can keep using that channeling.
Oh, okay. And correct me if I'm wrong. I took a peek into the first chapter of this book.
Mm-hmm.
Is if you're a cosmic being in this world, is space quote unquote breathable?
Yeah, the space is filled with aether, with aether. So there's an atmosphere that you can breathe, and that allows the starships to function the way they do, where they're more like sailing ships in space. And the aether, it's described in the game book too. The aether does a bunch of other things. It allows the cosmic powers, the cosmic energies to channel. It allows you to be able to draw upon those things. It has there are cosmic winds that are in that atmosphere, so the winds help to propel the starships, just like winds can propel sailing ships on a planet. And they do a number of other things, like they transfer heat very well, so which allows more planets to be habitable. And instead of having to have just a handful of planets kind of in the Goldilocks zone, where only planets right in this area here are not too cold and not too hot, in order to sustain life. So you've got a whole solar system of planets that are warmed by the sun because the aether transfers that heat.
Oh, that's interesting. So that's exciting because I love the old days. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love that science fiction has evolved enough that we're thinking about like, all right, how do you breathe in space and how do you exist in space? How you survive the vacuum of space? But I sort of miss like the 50s to 80s era of sci-fi where, like the Shi'ar in the X-Men comics, they just fly in space, no helmet, no nothing. They're just
Right.
superpower beings flying around doing things. Um, so in a way, it gives you like a sense of freedom almost to
Yeah.
like add some fantasy into science fiction so that you could do some really fun, I don't know, swashbuckling's the right word, but that's that feel of like you just, just uh, have more action in space without worrying about without being weighed down by the realism of science.
Yeah, you're not
Is that
stuck. You're not stuck inside your starship
Yeah,
all the
exactly,
time.
exactly.
And
Oh,
that allows the in the game for there to be combats where you could have personal combat, you can have starship combat, and you can also have personal and starship combat happening at the same time. Because characters, like the starships, can be firing at each other, and characters can be launching themselves, boarding another starship and actually engaging in fighting with the enemy on the deck of the ship that's also being blasted. So there's a lot of different options about kind of how you can run the action.
oh, that's really awesome. So yeah, let's talk about the rules. What is the rule system for this game, and what dice does it use?
It's a variant of the roll track system that I developed initially for Good Strong Hands, and that is also used in Code Warriors and in Nowhereville. It's a dice pool system. This version uses D10s, and that was done to give the dice a little more swing, a little more possible results. And so your character has four primary traits, which are body, mind, charm, and heart. And if you're going to make a trait check, you will roll a number of dice equal to the rating in that particular trait, which will be rated from 1 to 4. So you might roll one die, you might roll as many as four. If you have a skill, that gives you an additional die. There's other ways to gain or lose dice based on circumstances and expenditure of resources and things like that. And you're shooting to get one or more success on those dice versus a target number of like 6 through 10. So if you get no successes on your roll, you fail at whatever it was you're trying to do. The GM can impose some sort of a complication that kind of sends the narrative in another direction, or adds some difficulty. But then you also mark on a track called the reroll track, and a track is just a series of check boxes. As a standard, you start with 10, and if you fill up that reroll track, then you clear it in order to gain a reroll that you can use on any trait check. So failure leads to kind of learning and being able to figure out like, oh, now I can get a reroll. To help to keep me from failing on a future check. If you succeed with exactly one hit, one success, you complete the task, you do the thing, and you mark a spirit on the spirit track. And spirit is a currency that you'll spend. You'll gain and lose and spend points for various reasons. If you get 2 or more successes on the dice, you succeed on the thing, you gain a boon, which is, like you do the thing better, so some additional benefit. And you mark one on what's called the Nova track. And if you fill that Nova track, then you clear it to gain the ability to use one of your Novas. So that's how you earn the opportunity to use those big powers that are more limited.
What about well, I guess you could say the bestiary section, the antagonists.
There's a couple different chapters in there about GMing and telling stories, and then there's a whole big check section on setting, and then there's a chapter that's specifically like NPCs, and so it gives you a rundown of a whole bunch of different NPCs that would be like triarchy soldiers or other antagonists of varying capabilities and strengths and um, resilience. Some are a little more like minions that can be killed. They can be defeated relatively easily. Some are tougher. And then there's also a whole bunch of pre-generated cosmics, characters that have these cosmic abilities that are ready to go. And then there's also a monsters section, because you're out in space, and it's not outer space unless there's some wild and wacky space monsters, right? So there's a whole bunch of them, all the way from things that can potentially be trained, and like the triarchy or others might use as guard animals and things like that, all the way up to just like really terrible things that you want to try to avoid while you're flying around in the aether. So there's a whole mess of them, and all the monsters that are presented there are really kind of intended to be encountered in space, on a ship, on a space station, on a moon, that type of thing.
Okay. Is this game meant to have a certain tone? Like, for example, how Star Trek tends to have like a serious, sometimes philosophical tone, while Star Wars is more like romance action. What tone were you trying to do? What is there? Does this game have a tone?
Well, I present a number of themes that you can kind of run the game, to exemplify. And if you want to, you can run it as like high stakes, swashbuckling action sort of thing, and kind of focus on that. But if you want to get into dealing with like the realities of dealing with like this oppressive, terrible government, you might be looking at, you can do themes of the nature and the evils of fascism. Do the ends justify the means? Like the characters might need to make decisions that ultimately will benefit a lot of people, but right now might actually hurt or cause some problems. You can run it such that you don't get the big victory as often. So it's about celebrating the little victories and maybe, working your way slowly toward the really big victory, the really big moment where you really take a bite out of the triarchy. And then you get into things about just power, control, and oppression, unlikely heroes, flawed people doing the right thing in difficult times. And so you can kind of get all into that sort of thing. So it's presented as these are things you can incorporate, and you can kind of tailor it with your group.
I've noticed with your books that when it comes to the artwork, and strange that I didn't realize this till recently, that you pick your art very carefully to fit the style or theme of the book. Capers is definitely looks different from Strong Hands, for example, and even this one, Cosmic Corsairs, it's different from what I've seen your other books. This has a more like old school paperback in a way, or old school like Marvel Comics, Jim Starlin type of feel. Is that this art style? Is that what you're going for this book that you're hoping to portray, or are you trying to do something a little different?
I wasn't specifically digging into particular types of comics necessarily, but what happened was the artist Carly AF. I came across her on social media, and really, she has a whole variety of different artwork that she posts up on her social media feeds. But I was particularly intrigued by the science fictiony and outer space stuff to start with, like, and I was looking at doing an outer space game first, right? And because she has this great use of color, she's not afraid to do like dark colors and light colors, and really have like um, stuff that's set in a set with dark colors and blacks and jewel tones and stuff, but then also has got these bright colors that really pop off the page, pop out of the artwork. And so she and I got to talking, and I wrote a little art Bible, and we had a whole discussion. And some of the early um, artwork that was done was kind of slow going as we kind of figured out what this was going to look like. And we just kind of settled into what you see in the game, which is, I think has a bit of a comic book quality to it, but is also very imaginative. She had a lot of fun with different starship styles and what the military uniforms might look like, and what the clothing and equipment of the other characters might look like. And kind of really let her go wild with making sure to like really have some bright colors set against darker colors, and some really evocative artwork.
Hmm. So let's talk about your Kickstarter plans or your
Sure.
crowdfunding plans. What's in store for Cosmic Corsairs?
It is kickstarting on starting on Tuesday, October 7th. So I don't know when this episode's coming out. That might already be happening, or it might be coming up. So go check and see where it's at. There's the Kickstarter will run for about a month. The page itself has all sorts of information. There's lots of info, kind of starting with the broader strokes, and kind of for those people who just like they get like a page or one swipe or two down the page and they're like, oh yeah, this is definitely my thing. For those people who like a lot more detail before they commit, and they want to really know a lot more, you can look down further, and there's like I get into the mechanics, and I introduce some of the species that you can play and so forth. So there's a lot of info for you to check out and kind of get a good sense of the game. There'll be a PDF level, there's a hardcover book level, and then there's also a series of smaller supplements and accessories that are part of this as well. So you can add those on, or take higher backer tiers to get that stuff. So there's a booklet called Cosmic Corsairs Adventures, which is a series of 2-page adventures kind of in a small booklet. The adventures can be played individually, but they also have hooks that kind of take you from one to the other. So like you'll discover or learn something or do something in one of the adventures that kind of can link you to the next adventure. So you can actually turn it into sort of an adventure path that takes you through. So you could use that, and if you wanted to really spread it out, then you could pepper, a GM could pepper their own additional stories, and put together a whole very long, much more robust campaign that way. There's another couple little booklet types things, PDF things, and then we're doing dice. The game uses D10s. These are themed dice, and you only ever need no more than 6. So the dice set is exactly 6 D10. And then I'm also doing what I call the action coin, which is a coin that it's kind of like a triarchy side and a resistance side, and it's usable because of how the initiative works. You could use it to kind of help track where initiative is at. Like you pass the coin around the table as initiative goes from person to person, and when it goes to the GM, you can flip it over to the triarchy side, and the bump bump bum music plays when the GM gets their turn, and then when it goes back to the players, flip it back to the resistance side. And so, but it's all mix and match. Like you could get whatever bits and pieces you wanted in addition to the game itself.
Okay, is this how big would this book be? Is it going to be like a zine or like a typical hardbound book?
It's a 7x10 book, and it's clocking in at 148 pages. So it's kind of in line with my larger games. Like my games don't typically get above 200 pages. Code Warriors is close to 200. Most of the rest are kind of in the 150, 160, 170 range. So it's a pretty robust book, but it's not a massive tome that's going to take forever for you to digest it.
That's excellent. I'm looking forward to this book. I'm a big fan of sci-fi, epic, fun adventures. And I don't think there's any book that I have in my collection that's even close to what this book presents. So I'm really, really can't wait to have this in my collection. Is there anything more about this book that you want to share that I haven't asked you about?
Oh boy. Off the top of my head, no. I know one thing I'm hoping to do. Don't hold me to this. Carly and I are trying to work it out. But because the art, I love the art so much, and I've enjoyed working with Carly so much. If you are a lover of artwork and illustrations, and love hearing the inside scoop on some of that kind of stuff, Carly and I are looking to sit down and have a discussion about like how the look of the game world came together. And we're going to go back to some of her sketches and research and kind of show you the progression of like, this is where we started with this, and this is kind of the things she looked at, and we went through to these sketches, and these decisions were made, and this is the artwork we ended up with. And we'll do that for a few pieces from in the book. We're that's the plan as of right now. We're working out the details of trying to make that happen.
Okay, excellent. My friends and I were talking about running a superhero campaign sometime, but we're not really interested in doing like, hey, let's stop a bank robbery type of adventures. where it seems like all of us are always been more interested in cosmic adventures. Things that Silver Surfer, Guardians of the Galaxy, and similar stories. Dreadstar, I haven't thought Dreadstar in a long time. Things like that that we would like to play more of. But it's not too many games like that, and I'm happy to see that this is coming out because this is really close to what we're thinking of exactly to kind of what we want to play.
Yeah.
So that's really exciting. So yes, viewers and listeners, I will put links to everything we talked about in the description below for the Kickstarter, nerdburgergames.com, if you want to see some of the other great works that Craig has done. And as well as I'll see if I can put like also notes of some of the previous interviews we've done as well, in case you want to see some of the other things that he has worked on and we discussed. So Craig, thank you very much. Is there any last words before we wrap up?
Nope, nothing in particular. Thank you very much. If you're listening here, watching this, check out the Kickstarter. If you come across this down the road, hopefully the Kickstarter was successful and the game is available and you can go find it.
Excellent. Yes, I wish you great success. And
Thank
for
you.
viewers and listeners, be safe out there. Stay safe. We'll see you next time.